You spend hours trying to save money. You compare prices at the grocery store. You review your monthly subscriptions to see what you can cut. You finally sit down and call the cable company to optimize your internet plan.
Right, doing all the conventional things you're supposed to do.
Exactly. You are doing everything right to reduce your expenses. And yet somehow your daily life actually feels heavier. I mean, it doesn't feel lighter at all.
Yeah, and that's a really common frustration right now.
Because this heaviness isn't about rising prices or the economy. It is about an invisible, relentless inflation of the number of small decisions you are forced to make every single day. Okay, let's unpack this, because I think looking at this through the lens of the structural models we have today is going to fundamentally change how a lot of us view our daily routines.
It really is a completely different way to frame the exhaustion a lot of people are feeling. But before we get into the actual mechanics of it, I just want to clarify the tone of our analysis today.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because we are not here to offer productivity hacks. We certainly aren't going to give you money-saving advice or, rigid life rules. Instead, we are going to act as observers. We're going to look at the structural mechanics of daily life to see where this hidden burden actually comes from.
And how it physically moves into your everyday experience, right?
Yeah.
Because to really understand this hidden burden, we first need to understand the surface that it's wearing down.
Exactly.
The sources refer to this surface as the life membrane. And when I first read that term, I mean, my mind immediately went to high school biology. Am I way off base there?
Not entirely, actually. The biological metaphor is very intentional here. So think of a cell membrane. Its entire job is permeability. It lets the nutrients in and keeps the toxins out, mostly on autopilot.
Okay, so it's a filter.
Spot on. Your life membrane operates the exact same way for information and choices. It is the practical, operational surface where your daily decisions touch reality. It is not a metaphor for your wealth or your comfort level or your lifestyle quality. It's literally a structural filter.
So when that membrane is healthy and thick, your ordinary life keeps running smoothly because that filter is working on autopilot.
Right. You aren't rethinking everything from zero every single morning.
Yeah, like you know what you're eating for breakfast, you know your route to work, you know exactly what your phone contract entails. You have a system that naturally filters out the noise.
And conversely, when your membrane gets worn thin, that permeability breaks down. Every tiny detail breaches the wall.
Oh, wow. So you just lose that protection completely.
Yeah, and suddenly you have to consciously fight off every single piece of incoming data. Every minor choice requires a manual override.
Which brings me back to the paradox of saving money. Let's say you want to reduce your spending by cutting, I don't know, $20 off your phone bill. To actually achieve that, you can't just snap your fingers.
No, of course not. You have to do the work.
Right, you have to compare 5 different products. You have to read the terms and conditions, understand incredibly complex data plans, figure out when the promotional periods end, and then manage a new set of passwords for a new account.
Structurally speaking, you are executing a conversion. You are literally converting a price burden into a decision burden.
A decision burden, that's such a great way to put it.
Yeah, the financial cost drops, but the wear and tear on your life membrane increases dramatically because you've forced it to manually process all that new data. You've traded dollars for cognitive friction.
The tricky part is that the price burden is highly visible. Right? It's printed right there on your credit card statement. But the decision burden is totally invisible.
Exactly.
Nobody gives you a receipt at the end of the day that says, congratulations, you processed 400 micro decisions today.
That invisible accumulation is exactly what the source models are attempting to measure. There is a specific framework in our materials called the membrane contact phase model, or the MCP model.
Right, the MCP model.
Yeah, and it tracks how systems, in this case, your daily life, handle this invisible friction. And it identifies a state it calls chronic depolarization happening in phase 3.5.
Wait, phase 3.5, does that mean there's a phase 1 and 2 where we are actually doing okay?
Yes. The model maps a progression. So phase 1 is basic homeostasis. You encounter a decision, you make it, your membrane recovers.
Okay, that sounds normal.
It is. Then phase 2 is acute stress. Maybe you're moving to a new apartment or starting a new job. The decision burden spikes, but there is an end in sight, so the membrane eventually heals.
Got it. So what's phase 3.5 then?
Phase 3.5, chronic depolarization, describes a state where your life isn't entirely collapsing. You're still going to work, you're still paying your bills. But because you are constantly optimizing and taking on micro decisions just to maintain your baseline, you are kept in a state of high friction and incredibly low recovery.
I want to make sure I'm visualizing the mechanics of this correctly. Is this like having a smartphone where you meticulously closed all the big, expensive apps to save battery, but you didn't realize you have 50 free widgets running in the background?
Yes, that is a perfect analogy.
Like you saved your data plan, but the system itself is chronically fatigued because the processor never actually powers down. You have to charge the phone 3 times a day just to survive.
The mechanism is identical. The system isn't broken, but it completely lacks the surplus energy to do anything other than merely operate. It is exhausted by its own background processes.
Okay, since we know this decision burden is draining the battery, let's look at exactly what these background widgets are. Because the sources don't just leave it at decisions are bad.
Right, they get very granular.
They do. They break down the decision count into 5 distinct layers that constantly hit your life membrane. Let's walk through what these actually look like in practice. Layer number 1 is consumption decisions.
Yeah, this is the obvious baseline.
Exactly. What to buy, where to buy it, navigating the cereal aisle at the grocery store.
Hmm.
Or deciding if you need the premium subscription tier for your streaming service or if you can live with the ad-supported one.
That is the most visible layer. But layer 2 moves into institutional decisions, which are much heavier.
Oh, for sure. Navigating bureaucracy is awful.
It really is. This is where you have to constantly assess your standing with those bureaucracies. Are you eligible for a new government program? Do you qualify for a specific tax break?
Right. Or if the rules change at your municipality, do you need to apply for an exemption? You are constantly monitoring your own compliance.
Exactly. And that bleeds right into layer 3, which is verification decisions.
I feel like this one has exploded in the last 5 years. You
Yeah.
look at your phone and you are constantly forced to decide, is this notification actually important? Do I need to update this contract?
Yeah, or you're thinking, I need to scrutinize this invoice because my provider might have quietly overcharged me again.
Yes. Or the classic modern dilemma, is this security alert from my bank real? Or is it a highly sophisticated phishing scam?
You are literally forced to act as your own full-time security auditor. Then we add layer 4, relationship decisions. But in this structural context, we aren't talking about deciding where to take your spouse for dinner.
Right. It's not about standard socializing.
No, we are talking about the careful, calculated navigation of how you communicate. It's trying to figure out how to phrase a message to your medical provider through a patient portal so they actually take your symptoms seriously without writing you off as anxious.
Oh, that is so true. Or navigating the specific unspoken tone required in your workplace's messaging app. It's the emotional labor of drafting the perfect email, which is absolutely a heavy decision.
It's exhausting.
It is. But then we hit layer 5, recovery decisions. I have to admit, I struggled with this one. The model claims it's the heaviest layer, but hold on. Deciding to watch a movie on the couch is harder than navigating a tax audit or avoiding a bank scam.
I know, it sounds counterintuitive at first.
It really doesn't make sense to me. How is resting a heavy decision?
What's fascinating here is the underlying mechanism of fatigue. According to the MCP model, true health relies on having what they call repolarization infrastructure.
Meaning the ability to recharge the battery.
Correct. But repolarization requires surplus capacity. You need cognitive space to actually initiate the recovery. When your membrane is constantly hit by the first 4 layers, that surplus is destroyed.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, so when you finally sit down on the couch, the act of choosing how to recover becomes a massive analytical burden. You're simply too tired to figure out how to stop being tired.
Oh, man. So this is the classic scenario where you sit down, try to decide what movie will be the perfectly relaxing choice, end up scrolling through a streaming service for 45 minutes, get totally overwhelmed by the options, and then just go to bed angry.
Exactly. Because your system lacked the repolarization infrastructure to even process a low-stakes consumption decision, the friction of choosing completely negated the benefit of the rest.
Wow. Okay, I know what you're probably thinking right now listening to this. Wait a minute, isn't artificial intelligence supposed to fix all of this? Isn't AI supposed to make the decisions for me so my battery stops draining?
That is the promise, isn't it?
Right. I mean, AI can summarize a 50-page legal document in 2 seconds. It can explain complex tax forms. It completely eliminates search time.
AI is undeniably powerful at reducing the burden of searching and summarizing. But if we look at the structural mechanics, it does not solve the core problem. In fact, it highlights a completely different bottleneck.
How so?
Well, AI provides answers, but it does not eliminate the final burden of verification.
Right, so an AI summary of a medical bill or a complex government notice does not automatically become a usable decision in your everyday life.
It doesn't. Our sources define a concept called the translation layer. When AI hands you a clean, perfectly formatted answer, that information still has to pass through this translation layer.
You have to take that generic summary and translate it into your actual messy, highly specific conditions.
Ex-
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the AI isn't actually making the decision for you. It is actively creating new decisions inside this translation layer.
Yes, you have to do the grounding.
You read the summary, and now you have to decide, wait, is this AI hallucinating? Does this generic legal advice actually apply to my weird, highly specific landlord situation? You still have to figure out how it impacts your unique household budget, your specific contract, and your local region.
The information generation is instantaneous, but grounding that information into reality remains slow and heavy, and the burden of that translation remains entirely on the human. This is a massive theme in another model from our sources, the LMOS framework.
LMOS, meaning the logical mapping of operational systems framework,
Yeah.
right? Specifically their version 2.0 update.
That's the one. The LMOS framework includes a phase observation model that looks at how information speed actually affects our cognitive state. It notes that AI creates a massive amount of what it calls cognitive closure pressure.
Cognitive closure pressure. How does that pressure actually work against us?
Think about the psychological gap between receiving an answer and understanding an answer. If you sit down and read a 50-page document, you slowly build a mental map of the information.
Right, you're digesting it as you go.
Exactly. But when AI summarizes it for you in 2 seconds, the explanation speed completely outpaces your digestion speed. The AI says, here is the answer, and its confident tone pushes your brain toward closure. It tells you the work is done.
But because you didn't do the work to get there, your subconscious doesn't actually trust it.
Exactly the issue. You don't have the mental map. So you end up spending more cognitive energy verifying the AI's perfect answer against reality than you would have spent just reading the original document.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
The translation layer gets thicker and your life membrane gets thinner because now you are constantly verifying synthetic answers against real-world consequences.
It's like having an incredibly fast, highly confident assistant who occasionally lies to you. You spend so much energy double-checking their work that you haven't actually saved any cognitive bandwidth.
That is a perfect way to describe it.
So if we can't optimize our way out of this by comparing prices, and AI can't magically make the final calls for us, how do we actually protect our life membrane?
This is where we shift to observing decision management. But again, a quick reminder, we are looking at this structurally. We are observing how the system functions. We are not offering self-help tips or rigid life hacks.
Right, this is about observation.
Yes. The sources outline 4 structural operations that can manage and protect the life membrane.
Okay, let's go through them. The first operation is reduce. This means actively avoiding the needless inflation of options. Stop adding comparison points to your life.
Keep things simple.
Exactly. Don't sign up for 5 different hyper-specialized services if one general service will do, even if juggling the 5 separate ones mathematically saves you $3 a month.
Structurally, you are simply reducing the entry points of friction. Now, the second operation is stabilize. This is about creating intentional routines and defaults.
Like having a standard grocery list.
Right. If you buy the exact same groceries every Tuesday, you aren't making a consumption decision. You've stabilized that part of the membrane so you don't have to rethink it from scratch every single week.
That brings us to operation 3, which is externalize. This means using checklists, setting up automated calendar alerts, or using AI to do the pre-processing. But the sources put a massive warning label on this one.
They do because of the meta management trap. Managing your external tools can easily create a whole new layer of burden.
Oh, I've fallen into this trap so many times.
We all have. If you have a specific app to manage your tasks and another app to manage your budget and a third app to track your habits, you aren't managing your life anymore. You are just managing the apps.
Yeah, you've shifted the decision burden, you haven't eliminated it.
Precisely. Which brings us to the fourth operation and arguably the most practical one. Make recoverable. This means keeping records and actively favoring reversible choices.
But let's ground this. How does reversibility actually lighten the load on the membrane? Let's say I'm booking a flight for a vacation.
Okay, if you choose to book the absolute cheapest, non-refundable flight, the decision burden is massive. You have to check the dates 3 times, you have to coordinate perfectly with your partner's schedule.
You have to check the historical weather patterns for that week, verify your PTO is approved.
Exactly. You have to get it right on the first try because if you don't, you lose the money.
But if I book a flexible, fully refundable flight, even if it costs a little more, I just click Buy. I don't have to check the weather or my PTO balance immediately because if I got it wrong, I just change the date later.
The higher price is literally buying you decision relief.
The choice is light because it is reversible. That makes so much sense.
It does. And this raised an important question in the updated MCP version 1.2 model, leading to the concept of liquid stability or phase fluidity.
Liquid stability. That sounds like an oxymoron.
It does, but it's perhaps the most profound insight in the material. Often we think of stability as a rigid state where everything is perfectly synchronized and 100% optimized. We want the lowest price, the fastest route, the absolute perfect schedule.
Sure, that's the dream.
But the model argues that a fully synchronized, rigid system is actually incredibly fragile.
Because it has no give to it. It's like engineering a skyscraper in an earthquake zone. If you build it to be perfectly rigid, the first tremor snaps the foundation and the building collapses. You actually have to build in sway.
That is exactly it. True stability requires that sway. A healthy life maintains fluctuations. It maintains margins in play. Having routines, and crucially, accepting some inefficiency like choosing to pay a little more for the flexible flight or not obsessing over finding the absolute lowest price for an everyday item is what gives the system fluidity.
So the inefficiency is protective.
Yes. Inefficiency is often a feature, not a bug. It prevents you from breaking when a real crisis hits.
So what does this all mean? It means that having intentional non-decision zones in your life is not a sign of laziness. It is a sign of a highly functional, healthy membrane.
Absolutely.
If you refuse to optimize every single aspect of your day, you are actually protecting your system's repolarization infrastructure. You are leaving yourself room to recover.
You are preserving your capacity to adapt. When you intentionally accept a little bit of non-optimization, you are buying back your cognitive resilience.
This is such a massive reframe.
Mhm.
Protecting your daily life is not just about aggressively cutting your expenses. It's not just about hoarding money to feel safe. It is equally, if not more, about actively reducing your decision count.
It really is.
It's about preserving your repeatable routines, maintaining those non-decision zones, and ensuring you actually have enough recovery capacity to bounce back when things inevitably go wrong.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it fundamentally changes how we view the systems we interact with every day. We live in an era where we are constantly told that efficiency and optionality are the highest possible virtues.
More choices are always better, right? That's what they say.
Right. But structurally speaking, endless options without the underlying infrastructure to process them safely just leads directly to chronic depolarization.
And that leaves us with a final, somewhat provocative thought for you to ponder on your own today. We are constantly told by advertisers, platforms, and institutions that having infinite choices, whether that's 100 different streaming services, incredibly complex tiered phone plans, or a dozen gig economy delivery apps, is the ultimate form of freedom.
It's marketed as freedom, definitely.
But if, structurally speaking, endless choice inherently damages your life membrane, are large institutions and tech companies actually giving you freedom? Or are they just outsourcing their own operational friction onto you?
That's a very valid question.
Next time you are asked to navigate a maze of options, read through a dense set of terms and conditions, and manually verify an AI's output just to save $5, ask yourself who is actually paying the price for this decision.
Because the price isn't always paid in dollars. More often than not, it is paid in the wear and tear of your own membrane.
Think about that the next time you try to optimize your subscriptions. Thanks for diving deep with us, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.